So he had 0 tire experience.
Okay.
Before he showed up there. He went to work there, and in 4 months, he was the manager of the tire store.
Oh no. Today we're gonna get out of the shop and we're gonna cover 7 things that most tire shops don't want you to know. In this video, we will cover whether or not you can actually trust the recommendations that a tire shop gives you on what tires to buy. We'll cover whether or not a tire shop actually knows what they're doing, like signals that you should watch for, and then things like road force balancers. People have a lot of questions about those. Are road force balancers really necessary? I'm not just gonna sit in my own shop and bag on tire shops in the tire shop industry. We're actually going to go out to a tire shop and talk to them about some of the biggest issues. So we're headed out to a tire shop right now. I better put this camera away because I'm about to leave my driveway. Okay, so I'm out here at Quick Tires. I brought my list, my checklist.
These tire stores, they really want to sell you the tire that's gonna make them the most amount of money.
Okay, so Cooper and I talked about this for quite a bit. I'm gonna condense what we talked about. The 2 things to understand about tire recommendations at tire shops are spiffs, or what some people would call kickbacks, and then also in-house tire brands. Okay, so let's take a national brand like Big O Tire. When you walk into a Big O Tire, they sell all different kinds of brands of tires. And if you call them ahead of time and order tires, which I've done before, call them and tell them, I want the Mickey Thompsons, they'll order them in, and in a day or 2, I go and I can have those tires installed on my vehicle. If you ask them what tire is best for you, a lot of times they're gonna recommend their in-house brand. Now, here's the thing about Big O Tire that I kinda like. Their in-house brand is called a Big O tire. So when they're recommending their brand of tire, it is very obvious to you that they're recommending their tire. Hitting private label brands is a way for a tire shop to push you really hard towards a recommended tire while disguising the tire is actually their own brand and they make more money off of those tires. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Here's Les Schwab's webpage. Right here, they tell us they carry the biggest and best tire brands around. Then they list off a bunch of brands. Continental, Caldera, Cooper, Dean, Falcon, Federal, Hankook, Maxxis, Mazima, Pirelli, Toyo, and Raderstein. Sounds good, right? We've all heard of Cooper. We've all heard of Toyo. Oh wait, hold on. Some of these seem like they don't belong in a list of the biggest and best tire brands anywhere. For example, Caldera. What the heck is Caldera? That's not a big tire brand. If you go to their website, it shows only 2 tires that they manufacture. And the webpage looks suspiciously like it was made by a 14-year-old. If you dig a little bit deeper, there's not much there. If you search for who owns Caldera trademark, look at that. It's Les Schwab. It's almost like they don't want us to know. Okay, now let's dig into Dean's Tire. It's a private label brand sold at Les Schwab that is actually made by Cooper. In my experience, it's just a very expensive Cooper tire. And that brings us to Mazima. This one in particular annoys me. Mazima is, of course, a Japanese-sounding tire brand. That is, in fact, just another made-up tire brand that Les Schwab owns the trademark for. In reality, it's a tire made by Sumitomo, the same global company that's based in Japan that owns Falcon. Okay, so that brings me to the annoying part. On the left is the Mazima Open Range AT Plus. On the right is the Falcon AT3W, which is now discontinued, by the way, and has been replaced by a much improved AT4W. You'll notice that the Mazima is really just an AT3W. It has an almost identical C's and D's pattern, but it has a more basic sidewall, and then the center lug is slightly altered and split, which, by the way, in my opinion, makes this somewhat of a compromised tire for heavy trucks, and not nearly as good as the new Falcon AT4W, which, by the way, is priced $123 cheaper per tire than the Mazima. One final point of interest on the Mazima webpage. It tells you they are sold in dealers across the country, but seems to almost on purpose not show the names of these tire centers. You guessed it, they're all the Schwabs. I know that it's not just you that is doing this. I know that this is becoming a common practice. But then again, you are the companies whose mantra is do it right is what we do best. And Le Schwab, the actual founder of the company, who is not with us anymore, used to say our business is earning your trust and we like doing that as fast as we can. A little unsolicited advice. Maybe don't try so hard to hide the fact that you're selling your own tires. It might make you a little more trustworthy. Spiffs are where a national tire brand offers a tire shop a kickback if they sell a certain amount of their tires. One thing about these is a lot of times they're tiered, like sell 1,000 tires and you get X amount of dollars, and then sell your next $1,000 and get even more. The problem with this is you can walk into a tire shop and on one day they're going to tell you the best tire for your car is the one that will help them get to their spiff. And once they achieve that spiff, if they don't think they can make the next tier, they might start focusing on somebody else's spiff. If you want to watch out for this at a tire store, watch out for people that are claiming a certain tire is the best at everything, because that's never the case. Tires are built for specific things. Some are built more for bad weather. Some are built more for off-road. Every tire has nuances. They're probably making recommendations based on either what gets them paid the most or what they happen to have in stock at that moment in time. Spiffs have kind of poisoned the ability for most tire shops to make quality recommendations.
In a tire store,
Yeah.
kind of the lowest guy on the totem pole is the guy sitting behind this machine. He's usually getting paid the least.
Cooper and I ended up talking about this experience thing for probably like an hour. So I'm gonna save you the time and just give you some of the highlights.
At a certain point, just like any other thing you do in your life, you have to put in the work and you have to be hands-on for a certain amount of time.
You need experience. Even if it's not the person changing the tire, you need that manager or that person that has seen thousands of tires come through the shop and done thousands and thousands of mountings to be able to mentor those younger people and check their work. So yes, experience matters. You're gonna want to do your due diligence to find a shop that actually has some people in it that have been doing this a while.
Not to badmouth other stores, but when I first went to go get an employee, he worked at another tire store, a big chain store.
And you thought, well, he probably already knows what he's doing, right?
So he had zero tire experience before he showed up there. He went to work there, and in 4 months, he was the manager of the tire store.
Oh no.
So
That's scary.
that just goes to show that a big chain, the guy that could be running the whole thing could only have 6 months experience, 4 to 6 months, even a year experience is not enough.
If you're looking for shops that might be good, you want to find a shop that invests in its people.
As far as I know, I paid about the most that you're going to get at a tire tech. At a tire tech.
So you're looking for a shop where people stick around. Then you're looking for a shop that maybe invests in its equipment. Now realize, you could buy the best equipment on earth, and if you don't invest in your people, the results is still going to be bad. So equipment is only half of the equation. It's not even a full 50% of the equation. It's likely the lesser part of the equation. But if you can find a shop that invests in good people and invests in the good, more modern equipment, you've found gold. Cooper pointed out some interesting things here. Some of the national chains are actually owned at a local level, so they can still kind of operate like a local place. So just because something's a national chain doesn't mean they're all bad. I'm not trying to just say they're all bad. You just need to do a lot of due diligence to make sure that that place has talented people and probably good equipment. Secondly, if you're comparing a national chain to a local place, if you find the local stores where, these are your small mom and pop shops, a lot of times they only have like 2 or 3 locations in a whole valley or area, or sometimes even only one. The one positive thing you run in there is you usually run into employees that have stuck around for a long, long time. Sometimes it's family members, sometimes it's sons of the founder, things like that. So I do encourage people to start local because you might as well support your local economy anyway. Mobile installers. I think some people are scared of the idea of a mobile installer. It's like, I buy my tires on Tire Rack, and then you could have a mobile installer come out to my house. And you think, well, how good could their equipment be? Well, these guys have huge trailers, plenty big enough to fit the highest end equipment for mounting and balancing tires all the way down to the lowest end equipment. So you're going to want to talk to a mobile installer and ask them what equipment they actually have, and if they struggle with balancing your tires, what fallback do they have? For example, with Cooper, his shop does mobile installs, but if they really truly ran into an issue balancing something, they can always bring the tires back to the shop where they have a road force balancer, and they can do all the extra work there to make sure it balances. The one other thing with mobile installers that's super interesting, they have to come to you and schedule an appointment with you to work on your tire. If they mess up and they have to come back to you to fix it, they lose all their profits because that takes so much time, gas, and everything for them to do that. So mobile installers are terrified of not getting it right the first time, otherwise they just lose money. Tire shops aren't exactly like that. A tire shop, if they mess up, you have to come back to them. And when you show up, they put you in line behind whoever was ahead of you. And on top of that, many times it's another opportunity to sell you even more stuff. Your brakes are worn out, or this or that. So tire shops aren't necessarily, they want to get it right. They're not like getting it wrong on purpose, so you have to come back. But they're not nearly as incentivized to get it right the first time as a mobile installer. So that's not me telling you, always go mobile installer, but just realize there's pros and cons of each different type of tire shop. I hope this helps. I was telling you the list of things that I've run into. I've run into people, taking my tires off without deflating them, and I have method bead grips, so it just shreds the side. And then everybody just goes, oh, well, that's just because method bead grips are bad for tires. And you're like, well, no, also just air it down all the way. You were just talking to me about the way that you're taking off the backside of a wheel. Maybe it's a wheel that's getting older because you have a winter set of studded tires and a summer set, right? What are some of the things where you just know, like, okay, maybe I should not go back to this shop because they're shredding my bead? Can you kind of show, I'll follow you with the camera, but can you show what we're talking about there?
Yeah, so like the first thing first, you're gonna want to pull the valve core out.
Yeah.
And completely let
Deflate
the
the
air
tire.
out. Like completely, like no PSI. This thing should be squishy. There should be no air in it whatsoever. Reason being, just like you said, when you go to apply the pressure to break the bead, if it still has air in there,
You can structurally damage a tire.
you can damage the tire. And I have a little bit different machine, but if they have a side shovel and you roll up to the side shovel like this, and they smash it in like that, the side shovel has a ton of pressure, even more so than mine does. And what will happen is they'll come in there hot and they'll hammer it down, and just like you said, it'll rip the bead on the inside. It will push it off. It will damage. You can damage wheels. There's a lot of things that go into that. So once the air is completely out of it, it's going to go on the machine, and at that point, the biggest key is the lube. Like a lot of shops don't lube the tires, and it.
Or they do it, but you'll see them, and it's like this automatic reaction,
fast,
right? They just grab the thing, they don't look at it, they swing their arms around, and then it's like, is there actually anything on it or not? Nobody knows.
And that's going to be key to keeping the best condition, like to make sure that we're not ripping any beads. So when you get a little bit of an older of a tire, so like say this one is probably 3-4 years old on there, when you go to take it off, so you take the front side off, and now it's the front side's off, and you're taking the back side off. A lot of times, stores will have problems with ripping the back sides of the beads, or the front side as well. Lube, number one, it has to be lube.
He just told me right before we got the camera rolling, he told me a trick that I didn't know, and I'm going to use it on my machine.
Yeah, so what you're going to want to do is, once the tire is off, the lube has to be applied, because this is what rips. This piece right here. This is what's ripping.
It gets caught on this inside rim.
Right here.
And it rips here, right?
If they don't lube this before they take it off, the chances of it ripping go up dramatically.
So you get the top off, and then you end up seeing that torn lower side. And you're saying, so once you get the top loose, you literally pull it up, and then you re-lube the inside.
I re-lube the inside.
I've never done that, and I have definitely torn a tire or two.
Yeah, and it'll happen. you understand where to take the tire off as well. So
Yeah.
into the broken TPMS. So this doesn't have a TPMS, it's just a basic one.
Right.
But if you take the tire off incorrectly, and as you're taking it off, it will snap that sensor off so easily. I mean, they're just plastic. They're not very strong.
I'm sure you have some laying around in here somewhere. But yeah, these things are. I've had this happen a couple times. If depending on what type of thing you have to take tires off, when this is sitting on the inside of a rim, and it gets hit, when this gets hit right here with any type of metal tool or the tire, this thing's toast so fast. And it's kind of crazy because you can order these things in bulk and they end up costing like, I don't know, $13, $14. But by the time one's broken and you didn't know it's broken and they have to unmount a tire, remount a tire and put one in, it's costing you a lot more money. It's costing you $60. And that's not fun to end up paying $60 just because your TPMS got clipped by like the tire when it was getting taken off, right?
So in a general rule, if you have a tire store that comes back to you and says your TPMS sensors were broken, but they had worked before you went in there, they probably broke them. So what I would do is ask to see them. If they are actually broken, they broke them.
Right.
There's no other way to get around it.
I had my tires installed once where like 2 of my center caps were just not on. I didn't notice till I got home. I had it to where you can see it on this tire actually, where when they have to stack a decent amount of weight, because you have the kids that don't know what they're doing and they end up trailing weight all the way around the tire, and then you just chase weight forever. And then you have the guys that will stack it right, but then they don't understand that you're on a 17-inch wheel on a Tundra that has a big caliper. So it's like, even if you're going to stack it, you have to stack it in the correct position. To everybody that has never run a balancer, chasing weight, you're going to stick a tire on, not a machine like this, because this is a road one, but you're going to stick a tire on a thing like this. You're going to spin it. Then this screen is going to tell you, add 5 ounces. And you're going to spin it, and it's going to tell you exactly where to add your weight on the inside rim. You're going to stick it on there, and then you're going to spin it again. And instead of now being good and saying, golden, we're all zeroed out, it's going to tell you, oh no, now add
half an ounce over here.
Half an ounce over here, and then a half ounce there. And if you ever have a tire where you leave a tire shop and you look at the inside and it looks like they just took a machine gun and sprayed weights on it, it was a kid that just allowed the machine to chase weights forever and never actually went, wait, something's not right.
Correct? So there's 2 cases why that's going to happen. One, when they put the weight on at the beginning,
they didn't
make sure that it was perfectly in the middle. So there's lasers that come out, and on this machine there's lasers that come out, and they show me exactly where to split the weight right down the middle, and I set it on.
And you got to do exactly half and half.
And it's got to be half and half, because if it calls for 3 ounces and I slide it
2 on one side and 1 on the other,
there's 50 ounces or 0.5 ounces over here more. When I go to spin the wheel, it's going to want another half ounce over here.
Wait, hold on. Before you guys just think all tire people are stupid, what you have to remember is, like, if you're on aluminum, mostly on aluminum wheels nowadays, this is like what your weights look like. It's these stickers, but these are only 1/4 of an ounce a piece. So if you end up with a tire that says 3 ounces, which isn't necessarily unreasonable, think about the Mickeys where 11 would be allowed. 3 ounces is this whole entire strip. And then if you're in a hurry and you're going to slap this in there and you don't exactly split half and half on one side of the tire and one on the other side of the tire, you're hosed. And then you start chasing weight. So it's actually easy to do wrong. You really need to actually pay attention and care.
Quickly, just like the normal procedure that I go through, that not necessarily industry standard as far as balancing, because there's a quicker way to do it.
Well, and also at least introduce the equipment. This is actually a load force balancer.
So this is the Hunter Road Force Elite. This is their top of the line balancer that they have. This roller, we'll show you here in a minute. This actually recreates the road.
Yeah.
So we're gonna put the tire on, we're gonna balance it, and then this is gonna apply pressure to the tire that's gonna recreate it driving down the road. And then as it's going around, it's gonna measure the run out of the tire, the wheel. It's gonna tell us if the tire has pull, if there's more plies on one side or the other. It's gonna be able to tell us the harmonics of the tire. Oh man, there's a long list of applications that it goes through in order to give you the best balance possible. Is really what, at the end of the day, that's what this machine is meant to do, is to diagnose the problems with your balancing and be able to give you the absolute best ride possible on
Yeah.
the road. Because we're going to reduce the amount of road force. That's why it's called a road force machine. We're going to reduce the amount of road force that your tire applies to the ground.
Right.
So the industry standard, so if you're just like a piezometric tire, is 20 pounds of road force. If you go to the SUV, so like an XL ply, you'd be 24 pounds. And then you can go up to an LT, you can go all the way up to 35 pounds of road force. Now, this being said, if you go to a tire store and they road force it and they go, hey man, you're at about 50 pounds of road force. And we can't get it to go any lower.
Yeah.
And it's not going to necessarily be a deal breaker and like, I need a new tire and all that problem. You're just going to have to make sure that when it's in the front that it's not vibrating. And there's lots of guys that I've road forced and they've been 50 pounds and I go, hey, does it vibrate? Nope, didn't feel it at all.
Yeah.
So there's two sides to it, you know what I mean? And then there's other guys where it's road forced and yeah, I got a vibration. So by doing that, I'm able to diagnose, and then the machine will actually tell me where to put the tires on the vehicle
To get
to
optimum results.
to get the best results possible. So you might get a case where you have, like, you're going down the road and your tires are at 50%, and all of a sudden you develop a vibration, and you could have a slight issue with maybe an out of round tire. We might be able to fix it and get you more life out of your tires by putting that tire in the right rear or the left rear and get more mileage out of them. And then that way you can at least get some more mileage. You're not dealing with the vibration issue. And then when it comes to buy new tires, then at least you got some more mileage out of your tires that were bad.
Because that road force number is going to affect your miles per gallon,
Yep.
and it's going to affect the longevity of the tire.
Yeah, so longevity, miles per gallon, ride performance, control, like there's a big thing about control. So to go into it, so the first thing I always do is I never front cone. I never use these on the front. There's some guys that do. It's not how you do it. If they're doing that, I would recommend to go to a different tire store if they're gonna cone like that. It's just not the way. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna recreate the hub is essentially what we're doing. So we're gonna find the correct collet to go around here and recreate the hub. So we want it to sit on this face right here as best as we can, so you can see it sits in there just like the hub would. Slide it on the balancer.
Yeah, you grab the wrong one of those and you're gonna have trouble.
Immediately, yeah. If you go wrong with that, it's gonna throw
your host.
We'll slide it on here, and almost all tire stores are gonna use this. So they're gonna take this, and they're gonna go like this,
and crank it on
there.
And it's going to seat it against that cone that's supposed to level it out.
Yeah, it's supposed to be perfect. Right?
Perfect.
Here's the problem that I've found through playing with the machine and getting used to it and checking the variances and making sure that it actually does its job. Because when I bought it, I wanted to make sure it worked correctly in the way they described it. And I was having problems at the beginning being really consistent. And it really annoyed me. I wanted it to be perfect because that's what I bought it for, to fix all these issues. The problem I was having was this cone, no matter how many times you put it on there, it can be a little bit off. Just a hair off. And when you're talking about making something roll perfectly down the road, everything has to be perfect on it. So,
I would bet 90% of tires, it probably makes it just fine. But like when you run into those special occasions where somebody's chasing a vibration or something,
you either have no answers for them, or I'm pretty sure you do what you're about to show me.
Yeah, so this is the way this is just my standard of balancing. This is the way I do it every single time because I don't like the variation in it, and I just want it to be done right more than anything. I don't want people coming back with balancing issues. So I went out and I purchased these I call them fingers. I'm sure they have more of a name on it. But what it's going to do is it's going to recreate essentially your lug nuts.
Every lug pattern.
Yeah, every lug pattern. So you can see I have all these different ones to create all these different lug patterns. And a lot of tire stores aren't buying these because they're $2,000.
Yeah, they charge you $2,000 for these plates.
Yeah, so
this is how they make their money.
Yeah, they're not cheap. But in order to get the best results, it's just what you have to have.
So it's going to mimic basically lug nut pressure on the wheel, as opposed to some donut pushing on the wheel, which is unrealistic.
So with this, as you can see, there's absolutely no way. I mean, there's no variation in this. I mean, it is in its spot every single time. Whether I take it off, move it every single time, it's going to be in that spot.
And all the pressure is based on where the pressure would naturally occur. So if the deficiency, this is one thing I hate that I feel, this is where I feel most sorry for tire shops, is there's two variables in balancing a tire, the tire and the wheel.
Yep.
And people forget that there's a lot of wheels out there that are really crappy.
Yep.
So it could be a defect on where something sits in there. You know what I mean?
Yep. And most wheels, they're supposed to be checked every single time from the manufacturer and make sure everything. And I've seen brand new wheels come in, you put them on the machine, and it'll want quite a bit of weight, and you're like, oh, that's weird. Like brand new tire, brand new wheel, like all the other ones balance really good, but why did this one balance bad? And before I had this, when I didn't have this, it was hard to tell if a wheel had wheel hop on it because it would be off by 0.02, something like that.
You have to guess. You have to guess. You can't prove it at that point.
Yeah, you just can't. Yeah, exactly. There's no proof of it actually being bent or something's wrong with it. Besides the customer coming back and saying, "My car keeps vibrating. I don't know why. Why
is that 55 miles per hour?"
And you can ultimately always tell, especially when they rotate the tires, when it gets put into a front position,
it moves.
Then they're like, now it's really bad. So then that's when I bought this is like the idea was, so when I don't have to guess anymore. So we're gonna turn it on road force, and we're gonna drop the hood right here. And so there's there's lasers you can see that are reading the rim run out, and then there's gonna be another sensor when I bring this down that'll read the tire run out. So as you see, I'll bring it down here. There's a laser across through and through. And then I'm going to make sure that it's filled up. Yes. We're going to go through the balancing process. So it balances it first. I already pre-balanced. This one's already balanced.
So it should be pretty close.
Should be close. So, as you can see, right now we have 29 pounds of road force on this thing.
And this is, so is that just because we're running it based off P limits though?
So this is an LT.
So we're at 29. So we're within bounds.
We're in spec. This customer is not going to feel any vibrations anymore.
Well, and he's actually on the low.
Yeah.
He's on the low level of the scale.
Yeah. So up to 35. And then, so to show how I would fix the problem, I'll go back here. So I click road force, right? So in order to force match this, so if I wanted to bring this down further, which I could.
Which you can, which is crazy, because it's totally acceptable.
Yeah, it's in spec already, but if we wanted to be picky and we wanted to make sure that this thing is ultimately in the absolute best position possible.
Okay.
So instead of just trusting the dots, like most tire stores do, you got the yellow dot, the red dot, put the yellow dot on the valve stem, or if the wheel has the yellow dot on it, mount it to that position, wherever the yellow dot is.
This is going to tell you a different yellow dot, essentially.
There is no more you can't get any more perfect than this because the tire manufacturer can't know what wheel it's going on,
Right.
obviously.
Right.
So
They can't know wheel width, a whole lot of factors.
all those other factors. So when you put it on this machine, I'm actually able to. So I go down here and I mark it perfectly at 12 o'clock. So right up top, I mark the tire first right here, and then I hit the servo button, and I'm going to move it to here. So I got my mark on my wheel and my mark on my tire.
Dang.
I'm going to deflate this
Look at the screen. It literally shows marking it with your hands.
with hands.
With gloves.
Yes, with gloves. So I'm going to mark it here and here. We're going to take it off, put it back on the ballot. We'll put it back on the machine. We'll move it. We'll clock the tire into its correct position, fill it back up, put it back on the machine.
So it's telling you to move this point on the tire and slide it from here to there.
Yep. So you're going to move actually from this point to this point.
Okay.
So you're going to move this. You're just going to match the 2 points to each other.
Got it, got it. So it's telling you exactly based on whatever imperfection is in the tire and whatever imperfection is the wheel. That's the optimal spot for it, essentially.
I'm able to show, like, we can look at this. So it'll actually show me the first harmonic. So that's where I'm getting the most amount of weight
Yep.
from. And then the second harmonic, we're at 28, so it's a little better. Third harmonic is 10. So the reason we're able, like, if these were all at about in the 20s,
Yeah.
we probably wouldn't be able to make it go down much more.
Okay.
So because the third harmonic
One of them
is less,
solid.
we can actually move the tire a little bit on the wheel and get this everything. We'll get everything to go down. And then actually, I mean, it'll tell you, I mean, everything, like the limit is 140, which is crazy. And here's our rim run out. So we have 0.003 inches, 0.004 on the second. So
That's pretty good.
yeah, I mean, the wheel itself is
That's a
perfectly-
good wheel.
Yeah, it's a great wheel for being a
Who
used
makes
wheel.
that? No.
I think this is
okay.
Ultra wheel. Or maybe American Racing. If you really want, going back into the tire store thing again, if you really want to get down to the nitty gritty of the tire store and you want to ask some questions, you know, ask them, do you have a road force balancer?
What are these things called?
Do you use the finger collets, or
Yeah, do you use these or do you use a
or do you use a
cone?
cone to put it on? You know, you can ask those questions.
When it's a lot more work. So should you expect to get charged more for mounting and balancing this way? Because here, from my own experience with my balancer, you essentially mount it, throw it on the balancer, stack weights until it says you're good, and then you're done. In this case, more often than not, you're going to mount it, you're going to put it on here, then it's going to tell you to once again take this tire from this workstation back over there where you're going to have to deflate it again, rotate the tire, break the bead, break the bead, rotate it, and then bring it back here again, which means you're almost doing the equivalent amount of work of mounting every set of tires twice instead of once.
So you're really doing this thing twice. I mean, when you break it down, I mean, you're going through, you're gonna dismount the old tire off, put the new tire on there, bring it out, inflate it, bring it over to the road force machine, figure out where
It needs to
be
improve.
matched at, where
Now
it can be
pull
matched
it
at.
based on those lines and
then
do
we're
it
gonna
again.
the whole thing over again. So yes, you're gonna get charged. You're gonna get charged. Like for me, it's 120 to road force all four. On
That's
top of
not
the
bad,
on
though.
top of the 100, so it's 100. It's 220 to have your tires
Yeah.
match, force, balance, and that's every single one of them. We give full print off of proof. So if another thing too that you can do is
Oh,
I'll
yeah.
show you
Now this
this.
thing's got a printer. Oh, it's even a color printer.
Yeah, so it'll actually show me as we go through. This is the first tire we balance, second tire, third tire, fourth tire, right? And it'll tell me after we have road force balanced everything, it'll tell me where to put them to give you the best ride possible. So these road force down to 10 pounds and this one all the way down to 3 pounds.
Yeah.
And then we put this in the rear, but it'll give you a print off that actually shows like, hey, we did what we said we were going to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, essentially it's just going to take you twice as long to do it, thus being about twice as much.
Yeah.
Ask if they have a printer. Ask them, hey,
Can you show me how it turned out?
can you show me how it turned out?
Well, and if they're promising you road force and all this stuff and they're charging you for it, then at least get a printout.
Yeah, get a printout. If you're going to do a road force and you're going to pay for it, make sure they print it out so you can see, hey, where am I actually at? What
Yeah.
what am I looking like on these tires right now?
Some of the highest performance off-road tires are just naturally going to take a lot of weight because they are luggy monstrosities.
I mean, you take the Mickey, for example.
Yeah, weight doesn't necessarily mean terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like they're gonna almost always take more weight than a Nitto. Like it's
Yep.
just the way it is. They're built differently.
Yeah.
The way that their lug patterns are is different. That like everything is different about them. Thus being that the Mickeys are a heavier tire than a Nitto, so they almost always take more weight.
I was looking up like even as a reference. So he's talking about Mickey's. If you go to Mickey's own website, Mickey's says industry standard is you can take up to 2% of a tire's weight to balance it. Mickey says they won't pass their tire through quality control when they do their periodic tests and everything unless they can do 1% of the tire's weight.
1%.
And you think, okay, that sounds pretty good. So they're like half the industry standard, right?
Yeah.
Well, 1%, if you think of a 35, 12.5, 17, like probably that
Like
size
those are
tire right there.
70 pounds a piece, right?
That's 71-pound
Yeah,
tire.
71, yeah.
That is 11, I think it's 11.36 ounces. It's technically okay.
Yeah, and
Okay.
And the industry standard would be 20
Yeah,
ounces.
the industry standard would be 20.
Yeah.
For the record, I've never balanced a tire where I actually like didn't give up on it. That was like more than 7 ounces.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've worked with ones that were worse because
Mine-
you have to. Whereas me, with our big, huge tires, sometimes you just go, it's not worth it. We're not doing it.
And there's multiple ways.
But 11 is kind of crazy. We don't see a lot of 11s. I doubt you see a lot of 11s on there. Very
Yeah,
often.
I try not to.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
and the biggest problem with stacking weight is you're gonna hit the brake. Like probably the biggest problem is you're gonna hit the brake.
The thing that's funny is on my Tundra, I have to stack weight to not hit the caliper
not hit
because I only have a strip this wide to like not hit the caliper. So if I have too much weight that I have to add, I have to stack it in a thin strip here and leave a section for the caliper.
So there's cases
Yeah.
like that, and at the end of the day, the weight is still in the same.
It's in the right
position.
spot, yeah.
It's in the right spot.
And I swear that weights stick better to weights than they do to
They do.
wheels.
They stick
Because it's a way cleaner surface.
Yeah, way cleaner.